Okay, chaps, we're going to try a new format of MANUP because, to be honest, we're getting a bit bored of Zoom, and I think you guys are as well. So we thought, let's try and do something down the pub. Seems appropriate for us as a charity, and we just want to introduce Len as our very first guest, I guess.
Guinea pig?
Guinea pig, that'll do, yeah, absolutely. Guinea pig's the right thing to do. Hopefully Len is going to be a trustee of MANUP in the next few weeks, whatever else.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, you've got to keep me in track.
Yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, no, exactly. Kicking me up the backside from time to time. But yeah, I just wanted to put you into video because you do a lot within reason for your local community. I know you do the church stuff, you do the football stuff, and you always seem to be looking out for other people. So I think you'll be a good prime example, guinea pig. And yeah, what's your thoughts on men's mental health, and do you see like a pattern? You help a lot of people.
Well, I think my views on that have probably changed quite a lot in the last 10 years, simply because I've been involved personally with dealing with my own mental health.
Right, okay.
From time to time, usually in a work environment where things have got very stressful.
Yeah.
And the first time it happened, I didn't really know what was happening.
Yeah.
Because I'm usually a bit of definitely a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so when I started to realise I was turning into a glass half empty kind of guy, I didn't know why that was. And actually it got to quite a bad stage and I had to have time off work and just process that. And I was actually off work for about 3 months.
Wow, okay.
Just trying to work out what on earth was going on. And I wouldn't take medication because in my role as a lawyer, particularly a personal injury lawyer,
yeah,
I've kind of been involved with class actions where people have been addicted to drugs, and I thought I'll fight this on my own.
Yeah.
Whether that was a good call or a bad call, I don't know, but I got over it. And then a few years later, it started to happen again, but this time I didn't ignore the red lights on the dashboard. I actually did something about it. And I actually went to see a counsellor.
Yeah.
And, he said, if it's work-related stress, then the answer is to say no, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, who says no?
Yeah.
And he said to me, do you think you're Superman or something? And that was just like the trigger, and I just dissolved into floods of tears.
Yeah.
And I realised that I'm going to have to change the way I process stuff, because I can't just keep saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And that has been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And when you get a bit older in life, you don't worry so much about what people think of you.
Yeah.
It's just like,
I'm at that tipping point now.
Yeah. It's just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It's not reasonable. And I'll help you find a way around this, but I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Because I just think back to what it felt like when I did say yes to everything. So I think really for me, the opportunity to get involved with, men's mental health and men's well-being, it just seems like I know where that leads to.
Yeah.
And I know what some of the issues are.
Yeah.
So it's not as if I'm talking out of my backside about this.
Yeah.
So I'm just, and I really value what you do.
Yeah.
And so if I've learnt any skills in the last 50 years that I can bring to play, then let's go for it.
No, absolutely. So I've known you for a number of years, and you've never actually said any of that, Con?
No, well, it's not something that comes up in a conversation. I don't sit down in the pub and go, oh, by the way, let me tell you about the time I was off work for 3 months with work-related stress. It just doesn't come up.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing. That's what annoys me in this space sometimes. Is I'm all up for diagnosis. I'm all up for speaking and all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, you know everything I stand for, but there are some people where they try and make that ADHD, that diagnosis, as in their identity, and it really isn't. And I think that's what, and I generally think that stops a lot of men from talking about their own mental health outside of their bubble, so to speak, because they don't want to be seen as jumping on the bandwagon of. Am I making sense on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is probably more of a pause in people sharing because they think, oh, here we go again, someone else with it. Because it got to be a point where it was kind of like, oh, that'll be what it is then, won't it?
Yeah.
And I think, we just got to be really, really careful that we don't allow that to be a stumbling block.
Yeah.
Because it could be.
Yeah.
And we've got to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are people that would, they would like to make that the diagnosis for everything.
Yeah.
But if we're not honest, then, and we bottle it all up, then we're just making a rod for our own back, really.
No, exactly that, and that's exactly what MANUP's all about. Is do you know what, it's weird? I'm flipping all over the place, so I apologise. But I'm getting more and more people from the NHS thanking us for saying, agreeing that resources are a bit naff, because they are when it comes down to mental health. Even people in the front line with the NHS will absolutely say that. So they're actually thanking us for us to say that, because now we're like, well, that's fine, you moaning about the lack of therapy, the lack of this, but actually, what are you going to do to help yourself?
Yeah, because I think there is some people want the solution to be, I'll go to see a therapist and the therapist will fix me. And there is actually kind of a halfway house where there is a bit of self-therapy and a bit of group therapy that doesn't necessarily have to be all the time led by the NHS. There are organisations like yourself and others that can actually provide, a very valuable lifeline. So it's not the NHS or nothing.
Yeah. No,
and it has to be that way because of the resources, as you said.
No, exactly that. And I think the other issue is, I think people just aren't enjoying life as much as they should be anymore. Like you, I know, like you do your fishing, and as you know, I like to do, I do the wild camping, and I don't feel bad for having those boundaries of like, I go wild camping to completely clear my head. Yeah. I think we're moving in a world where actually that's not acceptable now. We're just designed to work.
Yeah, and that what I found is that there are organisations that will have, as part of their work-life balance, they will actually have created the opportunity for their employees to take, well, in my case it was, you could take 2 days a year off to do whatever it was that floated your boat, and they would pay for it because they realised that the work-life balance needs to be recognised, and whether you work for the Samaritans, a part of the RNLI, or like me, you go down to a lake and help chop down the bushes and the brambles to make it easier for people to walk. That is not only a therapeutic thing for you, but it's also a social benefit to others.
It's purpose, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And so you can at the end of the day, you can think, what have I done today? This is something tangible I've done, as opposed to, well, I spent 8 hours playing Minecraft or something. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd agree with that because, as you know, there are literally hundreds and hundreds. I think it's well over 1,000 conversations I've had with blokes. They're all over the place. The one pattern I see is the loss of purpose. I see that time and time again. I know I'm doing like a sweeping statement, but all I can say is from my experience of so many conversations, the lack of purpose. Retired people, they tend to go downhill quite a lot. I see that quite a lot. Even when people like split up in like relationships, they're separated from the kids or whatever else. Do you get me? It's pretty much always purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think purpose is always just going to work. Is always only being the husband or only being the dad. I don't mean that how that's probably coming across. But we've got to have something which links us with the community.
Yeah, for sure. So when...
If that makes sense.
Because I've literally just last week retired.
Yeah.
And
sorry,
so,
that's to be a trustee.
Yeah. Well, that's it, because you know people were saying to me all the time, so what are you going to do once you've retired?
Yeah.
You know, are you going to take it easy? And of course the answer is yes, but there needs to be purpose in that.
Yeah.
Because if all I did was sit on the sofa, look out the window, it would be like, what is the purpose?
Exactly.
So, and I haven't been looking for things. They've sort of found me.
Yeah.
But I guess I've had my eyes and ears open.
Yeah.
So I think absolutely, whether it's retirement or a change in direction, and sometimes, you know, even if you are doing something and you're doing it well, you can still feel, is there more than this?
Yeah.
Because, you know, with any job, usually there's a time when you're in this very steep learning curve, and then there's a point at which you think, do you know what, I think I might be getting the hang of this. And then one day you think to yourself, is this all there is?
Yeah.
And I think it's about chopping and changing to make sure you keep yourself fresh.
No, absolutely, yeah. No, I think I don't think you did say it, but that's just what I got from it as well. Is actually sometimes I think we should be supporting that. Sometimes if you're involved in something and you're not really getting that much from it, there's nothing wrong with saying, actually, I'm going to try something that, you know, you go through like seasons.
Yeah.
So like, as you know, like obviously I do stuff with the church just as you did as well. I used to run like the soup kitchen and I used to run this and I used to run that. And actually after the time, I'm just like, I'm not getting any satisfaction from this. I'm doing it just because you go through like seasons and terms, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm not saying it's all about me, but I think fundamentally...
Personal boundaries are important, though.
Yeah. And I think also one of the things that I've learned is that you need to make sure that you're focusing on yourself, but it's not just about being selfish. It's about, as you say, a purpose that is beyond outside you. Yeah. And that, I think, is really important.
No, absolutely. I just think we should be encouraging that a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
I think we're just moving. I just think we're moving in a world where we're arguably being forced to turn into robots.
Yeah.
Just in my opinion, and everyone's selfish for not wanting to be part of that kind of thing. If that made any sense, but
yeah, I mean, the way the world is going, the way business is going. People want to suck the life out of you because they want you to work longer, for less, harder, and that is completely unsustainable.
Yeah.
And if you go down that road, you will be crushed.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got the ability to notice that sort of thing happening in other people, you can make a difference to them by giving them some help, some suggestions, because it's not all just about me solving my issues. It's about me being aware of other people who might need help. Yeah, absolutely. And pointing them in the right direction. Yeah. So maybe signposting them to MANUP or signposting them somewhere else. Yeah. Because it's not that I can fix them, but you know people who can. Yeah. It's funny you say that, actually, just flipping over a little bit, is one thing people say to me is like, how have you got MANUP to where it is? Yeah, I started it, but actually it's the community, the people who have supported it. And I think MANUP's working because we're not arrogant enough to say we're the best at everything. I've got no qualms of us signposting. So like the MANUP camping trips we do. Yeah. We robbed that from strongmen. Yeah. We're strong allies with those guys. They deal with men in bereavement. Yeah. So like we've had applications where somebody lost his family, his wife and kids, and it sounded horrible. And I was like, so he wanted to come to our camping trip. So I phoned him up, actually. I was like,
Matt, I think like you're more than welcome to come, but I really do think you're going to get more better stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that shines through because we're actually putting our hands up to say we're not the best at everything.
No.
But we will work with other people and that.
Yeah, I think in this space that you're working in, no one's going to say, that's my idea, because there is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. I know we blatantly robbed it from Strongman. With their permission, of course.
Yeah, of course. And I think you need to, you do need to look out there and see, well, what is there?
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's difficult in this space to have a unique selling point, but I think it's perfectly okay to say, well, that works for them, why can't it work for us? And, you're a bit of an entrepreneur anyway.
Yeah. I'm just good at blagging and that. The perk of being brought up in the care system, you learn how to to make everything work. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's another thing we got in common as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, you were, weren't you? Yeah. I remember when you said that. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, there you go. And I think the danger in that is that the care system does make you very self-reliant very quickly. Yeah. And that is a very hard mould to break. Yeah. That I will fix myself, because I'm also of an age where it was, oh, just shut up and get on with it. Yeah. Will you stop moaning? Yeah. There's a lot worse people out there than you. Yeah. And so you just internalise.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Hardened at a very young age, isn't it? And that, yes. So it's funny enough. I was involved in something youth actually on Friday, and there was one. I won't say too much, but there was one person there. She was from the system, and we had to separate the groups because they were just being toe-rags. They really were. We had to separate the groups because it was just that boundaries, like you three go over there. But she took it very, very personally. So I know have a chat with her afterwards. I was just like. It wasn't just about you, but because obviously she's from the system, it was just like she took it very, very personally. I was like, no, actually, if someone's willing to help you, sometimes, and that took me years to learn that, just shut up and accept the help. Exactly, because I think not far beneath the surface is this idea of rejection. And, even though your brain is saying, this person is not rejecting me, they are just telling me some things I need to know, that knee-jerk reaction can kick in. Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So just before, I'm keeping an eye on the time. Yes, we're fine. So we'll call this one the last bit, because normally in the Zoom, obviously, just so I know where to cut that one out, is with the Zoom stuff, what I tend to say is, what would you say to somebody who might be watching this or struggling? I don't know whether to put it in these ones or not. Well, we can talk about it and then you can decide. No, exactly, yeah. So, all right, let's go back on track on that one, then we'll call it a day, just ready for the next guy. So if someone's going to be watching like this video, obviously you've been around the block in different areas and now retired. What would you say to people who might just be struggling? I don't think it needs to necessarily be blokes, but it is a men's mental health charity. I think... It's hard to answer that one because you don't know the context. It is, and context is everything. But I think there are some principles that transcends. Michael just had to be in a video, didn't he? Yeah. There's always someone, isn't there? Yeah. I think that there are a few principles that transcend, the subjective nature of what it might be that people are struggling with, and that's. And it's an old-fashioned expression, but a problem shared is a problem halved. Yeah. And it's getting to that point where you can actually vocalise that to somebody. So it's sharing it. And you would be amazed at the number of people who you think have got it all together who would say, I've been there. That was me a few years ago. I've been very, very surprised. Well, that's literally just happened on the sofa. Literally just happened on the sofa. So, yeah, I'll back that up, actually. And the whole thing of, they'll judge me, actually. I don't think many people... I think there'll always be the odd arse. Well, I see it especially on social media time and time again, but actually most people have been around the block and had issues. They just don't want to... Yeah, and I think also the way you
you make that less of a risk is you pick someone that you trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, if you've been in the care system, you probably don't trust anyone.
No, it's taken years. Yeah, even now, it's still like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And even with that, I'll trust that person with that bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trust that bit with that bit, and never let them ever meet each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but no, thank you very much. That was a good one.
Excellent.
Cool.